morning, Marissa. How are you doing?
Aren't we live?
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start the session.
We live, Siyabonga.
Oh, okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I'm going to be your facilitator. I'm Siyabonga Biase. I'm going to be your facilitator on the topic on what do we want our leaders to begin implementing for marine protected areas and by when. So this will be kind of a dialogue, and you guys can just share your thoughts by simply clicking on these stickers and write and type your thoughts, your suggestions on what you think our leaders should begin implementing in protecting our marine areas. So, but you are advised to not click on someone's sticker to avoid duplication. Yes.
Could you please share the link to the Jamboard on the chat so that people can be able to edit and do the thing?
Hi, Armstrong.
Hi, Adrian.
I'm not sure what happened to Siyabonga. I think his connection might have dropped. Oh, there he's coming back.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Right, you're back. You would need to screen share again, please, back to that Jamboard.
Okay. Can you now see it?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna be the facilitator for this topic of what do we want our leaders to begin implementing for marine protected areas and by when. And you guys, you can share like your thoughts by simply clicking on these stickers and write notes on your thought. But in guiding you maybe with the questions is, do you feel maybe the leaders have done enough for equitable and effective ocean protection? Maybe I would like to hear your thought on that.
I don't know what happened. Huh? I don't know what's happening, but my laptop just froze and it's jumping up and down.
But guys, are you able to write and share?
Sure.
I see Kajal has posted the link to the Jamboard in the chat.
Sorry, can you please repeat what you were saying?
Kajal has posted the link to the Jamboard in the chat for everybody.
Oh, okay.
Siyabonga,
Yes.
in the chat, there is somebody asking, after following the link, how do I share my thoughts and views that I've written down? I've followed the link, but I don't see any Dropbox or icon for submission. So I don't know if you can show the attendee where to go to add to the
Okay.
Jamboard.
Okay, you click to the sticker, then to the stick note, and then you type what you want to type, and then you save it. Then once you save it, it will be automatically posted on the on the PowerPoint. Also, in guiding you with questions, another question might be is what target do you think are most important for ocean protection in Africa? So, of course, we have to look on where we're not doing good and see what is most important.
Morning, Simone.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Sorry for the sorry, it's the first time I've spoken on. I was just wondering, Siyabonga, if you weren't able to share the I mistyped it in the document, the Jamboard, and then the person I'm not sure who typed on because it should be on page 2. There's one comment on page 1 that was the question, but the text needs to be on page 2 of the or page 2 or 3 of the Jamboard. And the one person has written a whole lot of information. I'm not sure where that's come from, but it's sort of gone over the post-it. Perhaps they could split that information out a bit. But I'm not sure if anyone in here is actually working on the Jamboard. Maybe you can just check and then share your screen. I'm not sure if people can put in the comment box, maybe.
Okay, all right, okay, I'll try and do that.
Yeah, see if you can't share your screen so that we can kind of see the working as well. Thanks, yeah. Thanks, Adrian.
Okay.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, Khalid.
Hi, Adrian. Hi, Siyabonga. Hey, Rachel. Hello, Simone. So Sia, are you the presenter for the session?
I'm the facilitator.
You're the facilitator, okay. Do we have people speaking, or is it more of an organic discussion?
It's just discussion. So you
Okay,
just
brilliant.
yeah, you just write your ideas. Yep.
Oh, yes. Okay, great. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, I kind of got. There's a Jamboard with the different opinions and notes, comments from the youth. I think you were trying to share that, right, Siyabonga? Well, I'm going to give it a shot now. I have thoughts about the questions. Yeah, Africa leadership. Well, we have to look at it from the continental's perspective. And if we look at how the AU are handling, well, they are continental leaders, the African Union. They are handling, geopolitical and transboundary issues, including war, food crises, and climate change. And then I feel that into that environmental ambit falls also marine protection and environmental protection. So, what do we want our leaders to begin implementing for marine protected areas, and what do we want our leaders to begin implementing? Okay, I think what do we want from our leaders to begin uh, implementing for marine protected areas, and by when? By when is actually a subjective kind of connotation, because we have to look at how the global push for marine protected areas is coming through the 30 by 30 directive, but also look what Africa is capable of, and also look at what we can achieve within our current scope. Marine protected areas and marine protection are two separate things. If Africa tightens up the knowledge and the capacities around environmental protection in general, then that would subsequently lead to marine protected areas being realized. However, if we are prescribed marine protected areas without addressing the fundamental appreciation for marine protection and environmental protection, it's going to be kind of the cart before the horse syndrome, where the AU leaders are trying to utilize something from the future, but not address the demands and the appreciation and the need from within today. So, what do we want our leaders to do? We need a complete rewrite. Well, I feel not complete, but some transformation perhaps of the narrative which underpins why we need environmental protection. We need to identify that environmental protection in Africa is conducive to the livelihood, security, and the safety of Africans in general. So, by understanding that, we can understand that we don't need, we shouldn't have to stress about marine protected areas or protected areas in general. We should understand that they are part of our continuation for livelihood sustainability in Africa. I think if we even go one step further back and understand the different types of industries that we have in Africa, the levels of industrialization. So many of you have heard the term fourth industrial revolution. Well, it actually has three other phases before that, and those are highly applicable to Africa. The first industrial revolution uh, relates to the utilization of natural resources as the, as the producing foundry. So Africa is a mosaic. It's a heterogenic mosaic of different types of industrialization levels. Many people are still relying on the first industrial revolution type of livelihood strategy. So they use their natural resources, they develop um, baskets and food and items within their homes, and they sell out of their homes. The second industrial revolution is less reliant on the direct utilization of natural resources, but it involves the manufacturing and the factory. It actually significantly pertains to the steam engine and mechanization. In protected areas from our natural world, we get many types of different resources. We get ore, we get fish, we get sand, we get trees. All of these are utilizable natural resources which feed into the mechanistic mindset of the second industrial revolution. If we are highlighting that many people still are within this industrial transition between the first and second industrial revolution before even having access to wide-scale electricity, which denotes the third industrial revolution, we understand that protecting natural resources is a way for us to employ them, but also leapfrog several levels of industrial revolution. In this fashion, I can, but can I monitor the Q&A? Okay, sorry, Adrian. Should I continue speaking?
Yes, sorry, carry on speaking, Khalid.
Okay. Yeah, so we want our leaders to identify that the African continent is within this transition phase between the first and second industrial revolution, where there's a strong reliance on natural resources in general. Protecting the renewability and sustainability and accessibility to those natural resources should be a fundamental kind of tenet that they should try and underpin, so that when they bring these higher level technologies, the manufacturing plants, electricity, and the internet, which denotes the fourth industrial revolution, to the spaces where Africans are, we have protected and used our natural resources in such a way, like the ocean, like the fish, like the ore and the sand and the trees. We have used the resources in such a way that we haven't destroyed our capacity to get through the levels of industrialization rapidly and without much environmental harm. So by when do we need to start implementing this? Okay, first we'll need to identify where marine protected areas and environmental protection would be most utilizable and most feasible and most beneficial. If some communities are stuck in a loop between transitioning from the natural resource usage at the basic level to the second industrial revolution phase, which is mechanization, manufacturing, and selling of the fish, for example, and they go and they fall between up and down this loop between survival and commercialization, survival and commercialization. There represents an opportunity for marine protection to ensure that there's some sort of sustainability for the livelihood for the people who are utilizing that natural resource. And because it's marine focused in this example, I'm using fish and the ocean and trees and coral and not coral, because we shouldn't really harvest it, but maybe washed up coral as building blocks, and seaweed. There's many resources that can be obtained from the ocean directly and can be commercialized, can be used for livelihood subsistence, and in some phases can even become part of the third and fourth industrial revolution when you thinking about tertiary industries like seaweed harvesting, which has become a product. People, they can dry the seaweed, mill it together, create pastes, create facial cleansers and pharmaceutical products. And in the fourth industrial revolution, they can even incorporate the research and the knowledge that is needed to conserve those resources. And that in itself is an industry: protectionism, tourism, protecting the natural resources, tourism, and research science. So if we look at the levels of industrialization that people are at and they're capable of, we get a good idea of how we can adapt marine protected areas and protection itself to suit those spaces.
Oh, okay. I think like I understand you touch on the importance of leadership, on how we like it's need like to improve in order to deal with the present um challenges. And but do you believe that like local local led marine area local led marine uh, areas are future ocean protection in Africa?
I locally led marine protection can. Okay, so that's an interesting concept because the spaces that exist on the shoreline in Africa are historically not accessible to all people at the same time. Like, for example, you live in South Africa, you might identify
Yes.
coastal properties as something which is relating to a specific class of people. You know, very rich people can buy seashore properties. If those people who are living near the seashore demand a marine protected area, it's going to actually impact people who have further inland who travel out to the ocean, utilize the ocean for their natural resources, maybe as fishing for their livelihoods, or fishing for recreation, fishing for commercial purposes. So I feel that there has to be a collective level of consultation for the marine protected area establishment, which doesn't negatively impact those stakeholders which are not living directly at the point of where the marine protected area overlaps their property, because we have complexities in the whole situation. We've got property bylaws, we've got people owning part of the beach and then demanding a marine protected area. We got community forums which represent the community interests, and they themselves are not, set by the same challenges as people who need the ocean but are coming from different communities because historically were pushed in those communities, or they were never economically mobilized to the seashore. So it's a complex question. Fundamentally, I think if we take a stakeholder-driven approach between how people represent themselves in the ocean space, then you can have a fisherman coming from inland still have voice compared to the property owner who's living on the seashore. And our leaders need to be cognizant of these kind of complexities when they're bringing in marine protected areas, because it's not just all about people living close to the ocean. We all don't live on the coastline. It's extremely expensive. It's beset by historical narratives, and in Africa itself, there's more people living in cities but are gaining an environmental appreciation and need access to the coastline.
What are your thoughts on social auditing? Like legalization of social auditing, which is simple, like forcing any organization to, which is simply forcing any organization to assess its performance in relation to society's requirements and expectation. So, which means in that case, for that marine protected areas, in order to be assessed as a successful one in that maybe particular year, or depending on how on the time it is assessed, or maybe after 3 years, in order to encourage the stakeholder involvement or engagement, what do you think if the social auditing is being legalized? Would you think that will have a good impact on stakeholder engagement, or the quality of stakeholder engagement? Because organization or that particular MPAs will have something to make sure to do, and to make sure that it's not just the signing of the paper, but the society's requirements is also need to be shown in their result.
I think you're hitting the nail around the head there, because in most environmental projects we have this concept of needs and desirability, which demand consultation and a public participation process before the actual development can go ahead. If we translate that same kind of thinking to marine protection areas and marine spaces, then we can also identify the needs and desirability from the public, from the different stakeholders that has to go into the decision making around the gazetting and establishment of marine protected areas. What does a marine protected area mean for that community, for those stakeholders, and should certain stakeholders have an overriding voice because they have proximity to the marine protected area, or like, so it goes back to those first complexities that I mentioned, where some people who might live near the marine protected area or might have studied about the marine environment may think that they should be more considered in the decision making appeal, and they will lobby government, and they will bring about the okay. So I just want to wrap up with this last point, in that we have to have a
Okay.
equitable weighting when it comes to marine protected area establishment, and especially when disenfranchised communities and people who live far from the coastal environment themselves make themselves represented and try to be heard in this area. So as you say, a lifestyle audit, social audit should be done, and it should be over like a multi-year time frame to see who the main utilizers of the marine protected space is, of the marine space is, and to what extent they are using it. Because someone who's using it just for recreation has a whole different mindset compared to someone who needs access to the marine space for their livelihood. So I hope that kind of answers your question.
Okay, I think the last question is in terms of like having the order, since we highlighted stakeholder importance of stakeholder engagement, quality of leadership, which is the bottom up, as well as the compliance and enforcement. So do you think that so what do you think should the leaders like start with? They need to start maybe with the stakeholder engagement, then leadership, then compliance and enforcement. And in terms of like compliance for a long term, how can we improve compliance
I think
for a long term?
we have to wrap up the session now, but just because
all
I
right,
think we
okay.
have 2 minutes. It ends at 11. We have 2 minutes just to give some parting comments.
Okay.
We should say that enforcement and compliance shouldn't be the fundamental reason that an area should become a protected space, because that breeds kind of natural retaliation, which most human beings are capable of and feel done down by. So they automatically rebel against the policing, austerity, protectionism, and just being told to be kept out of something that they feel they have an attachment to. And who among us can say that one person is more entitled to appreciation of nature than another person because they have some knowledge that another person doesn't? Many people can feel different levels of relatedness to nature based on communal, cultural, historical, proximity relations, and all of those things need to be considered before we implement the heavy-handed approach of marine protected areas in a very strong form. So we have to be inclusive. We have to take people's opinions into account, people's historical context into account, and like your other question kind of alluded to, do a monitoring, public participation, social audit to identify who are the major stakeholders, what kind of interest they have in the marine protected area, and how critical it is to their own livelihood as human beings before we designate an area and then close it off. Yeah, so I think that's my last point before we have to close it now.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah.
I think, yeah. Thank you very much.
Cool, man.
I don't know, maybe if people like wrote on the chat, or maybe just still have to be posted on, but I don't see much. But thanks to those one who were able to contribute on the sticky notes to write their ideas or opinions about what should our leaders begin to implement for marine protected areas and by when.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.